What is up, everybody? Tomoverse TV here today. We're gonna go over this very controversial headline that Forbes has written about the Xbox Series X. So it states, "Why the Xbox Series X is 2020's biggest gaming disappointment." Now, Matt Gardner, this better be a good article. If this is not a good article, you are getting roasted. Because the Xbox is the biggest disappointment of 2020, but not Nintendo with the Switch. I was thinking about doing a video about the Nintendo Switch 2020, just year in general, because my Switch has been collecting dust. It's probably super dusty right now. At least Microsoft just released a new console, but Xbox is the biggest disappointment. So we're gonna read this article, and hopefully he makes a good point to why this is the biggest disappointment. So let's get into it. He said this post has been updated. He probably been roasted. He's probably been roasted before by fanboys. But let's get into it. November's gaming release madness is finally behind us. As a day one owner of Xbox Series X, so is the excitement I once had for my new console, despite its technical brilliance. In fact, as a genuinely worthwhile investment for the coming years, the Xbox Series X has disappointed me. The Series X is the first major console release that feels like a small step for gaming rather than a giant leap. Sure, loading times are lightning quick, frame rates are largely superb, dynamic lighting is on a whole new level, but has delivered anything close to the awesome experience I built up in my head. So, what else is it supposed to do? It makes your games load faster. It's kind of weird. He even wrote it like the frame rates are a lot better because games are now 60 frames per second, while we've been stuck to mostly 30 frame per second games on our consoles. And it's like the lighting is a lot better. You can't make it more 4K. It's already 4K. They can't make it more 4K. What else was they supposed to? What else was he supposed to do with the system? It's supposed to be an updated Xbox One X because we're getting these consoles we're getting new consoles or Pro or the Pro version of the consoles every 3 years now. I just did a video on that too. How the PS5 Pro is. I saw a rumor there's a PS5 Pro in the making. So how much more are they supposed to improve in 3 years? It's like, come on, how much more? Yeah, it's so ridiculous. Like, of course, it's not going to be that huge of a gap. If there'd be a huge the gap, the huge gap would have been if Microsoft just would have released the Xbox One, that original fat one that looks like a VCR. They just stuck with that, not made an Xbox One X, but just stuck with the original Xbox One. Then they released Xbox Series X. There would be a humongous gap then, but since they made that console in between that Xbox One X, that's not that huge of a gap because we're getting consoles every 3 years now. It seems like. But back to the article. Thanks to Microsoft platform-wide OS, a lack of optimized games, as well as the comparatively decent technical performance on the One X that came before it, there's nothing particularly stunning about the Series X in 2020. Save for its monolith design, it doesn't feel exciting, just an inevitable upgrade for gamers like me who bought into the Microsoft gaming ecosystem. I don't understand people who are shocked about this new system. It's like lack of optimized games. Both systems have a lack of optimized games. It's like more on the Microsoft side, sure, but both systems have optimized games. The games aren't running the best on either one of these systems. That's kind of like, it's like over time, yeah, the developers get more comfortable with the game with the systems. The games will be more optimized, but it's like both games. Like a lot of these games are crashing on both systems. Like especially like the Call of Duty game, it's crashing on PS5 and Xbox. The Spider-Man games crashing on PS5. There's still a lot of glitches on PS5. So both these games on both these systems are not really that optimized. That they are optimized very well. So it says it shouldn't be a surprise that this is the new norm. I'd be willing to wager that plenty of PS5 owners are having the same feeling about their own new consoles, even if it's the early days. So why make the article about Microsoft then if you saying the same thing about Sony? Like, was it just be a catching headline if you're gonna say the same thing about Sony as well too? Like you made it sound like it was exclusive, like a Microsoft issue that there's not that big of a gap. But you made the same thing about PS5 as well. So I don't get this article. And yet, until now, these early days of playing new console have always been the most memorable. I've experienced the launches of four groundbreaking gaming generations prior to this one, going all the way back to the Genesis. Every single one has been awesome in the truest sense of the word. He's talking about old games, Sonic, Crash Bandicoot. These unforgettable moments of exhilaration have not once been matched, or once near, or one, or even near by the Xbox Series X. This has become. This isn't because I'm and now my mid 30s are coming off what I'm sure we agreed to be the most exhausting year of game in history. What is he talking about? Can you try to summarize this? Why is it so long? The seas of change are playing with the One X and PS4 Pro when the game industry provided toward incremental refinements in line with new TV standards, but the Xbox Series X and perhaps the PS5 has set a new precedent. Because of the finer improvements to an existing generation, landmark events are more piecemeal. I don't know what he's getting at. It's like I said before, you're not gonna see these huge gaps like we've seen before because they're updating the consoles every 3 years. So I don't know. This article just seems like some clickbait to me, to be honest. It seems like some clickbait. It's like, what are you complaining about, really? Like, we haven't seen that big of a gap. It's like, of course we're not gonna see that big of a gap. It's like, it's just, I'm just happy that the games load a lot faster. That's really the main thing. The games load faster now. They load like in seconds. Um, that's like one of the major things. The is the frame rates are increased. That's as much as you can ask for with this new generation. Like we already in 4K. I don't understand what more do you want. Now, if he was talking about like some exclusive games, Microsoft releasing these exclusive games, then sure. But I don't know why he says this is a disappointment. It's just like I'm not about to read this whole thing. This is way too long. It just seems like some clickbait to me. Honestly, it seems like he just wants to write a clickbait tells people click on this stuff. That's what I'm getting from this article. But like I said before, the Nintendo Switch is they had the worst year. I mean, they probably did well sell wise, but Nintendo probably had the worst year. They are the definition of the 2020's biggest game of disappointment because they released some ports of some old games, Mario games. Sure, they might be great games, but it's like they're old. Who cares? Like y'all just ported some games over. It wasn't like a remake. They just ported the same games over. Uh, it's I wasn't happy with Nintendo Switch this year. So to say Xbox Series X is the biggest disappointment is very dishonest. And look at this is some replies to the same article people talking about Forbes calling Xbox Series X 2020's biggest game disappointment. This is what some people have to say. While I agree with the overall assessment, PS5 is off to a flyer. They both arguably should have been delayed to allow better showcase games to catch up with the tech. PS5 launch games are no means jaw dropping, like many first party Sony titles the headlines hide. Exactly, like you're throwing all the shade at Microsoft, but not none at Sony as well too. Some home truths: Cross-gen Spider-Man is essentially more swinging, just shiny and new characters. Souls is Souls, and that was on the PS3 as well. It will never be for everyone. Again, looks shiny. Godfall, enough said. Godfall has been getting. That game has low scores for the Godfall game. The best, arguably, is Astro, the pre-installed game. There's by no means anything jaw-dropping. That Astro Bot is pretty fun. I was playing that game yesterday. It's like that game gives you a workout too. I was playing one game. That game gives you a workout with that DualSense controller. Um, Neither consoles for next gen, to be honest. Demon Souls is probably the best thing to come from the new console so far. I prefer the new PS5 user interface over the Xbox Series X. Both controllers are fine. They should have had stronger launch titles. It would have been better to wait. I hear a lot of people complain about the user interface on the Xbox user interface compared to the PS5 user interface. It's a thing because with the Xbox you get familiar with the stuff, you know where everything is at because it's the same user interface. While with the PS5, you gotta learn all the way, you gotta learn what stuff is at again, like how to turn off the system. Had a problem just trying to find out how to turn off the system because it's so different than how the PS4 user interface is, or even how to navigate through the PSN store. So I guess I'm getting used to. So it's not I can't say that it's like completely a bad thing that Microsoft stuck with the same user interface. You at least know how to do everything that you did before. While with Sony, you gotta learn everything. You gotta learn where everything is at again. So it's both other pluses and minuses. Well, COVID must be affecting game development and even the consoles. They both kind of sound like they really was not ready to release yet. Yeah, they probably should have waited because this whole scalping situation too. People can't even get the next generation consoles that really want it, and it's like there's like no real major exclusive game that's only like next gen only. That's like you can't play on these previous consoles. It's like Demon Souls, sure, but that's a PS3 game. So you play the PS3 version of Demon Souls, you know how you know everything is in the PS5 version. So, uh, to be honest, neither consoles feel like they needed to be released right now. It feels that they only gotten them out for the sake of the competition. I mean, both of the lineups are rather poor. All the games can be played on older platforms. It feels like they should have launched later. Yep, a lot of people got the same sentiment. They probably should have launched later. Probably would have. Yeah, probably should have did that to be honest. Maybe PlayStation should also go for a more stronger console in addition to what they already done. So we can just have one console no matter how hard, and also an Xbox fan like me try to defend PS4 reign. You can make a cool controller. You can make a powerful system. I usually get both consoles because I'm never biased, but how long will they keep this non-existent war up? LMAO. Yeah, not really seeing. Yeah, people like saying pretty much the general consensus. People is like, this article is probably some clickbait. It's like you're talking this narrative about Xbox, but it's the same thing you say about the PS5 as well too. They both could have been delayed. It's pretty much the general consensus. Um, and like this person said, that's a bit harsh in my opinion. Although I do believe Microsoft needs to do better for the loyal fans. Like, what else do they need to do? Because sure, the launch lineup isn't that great, but it's like within the next few years, we're gonna have all these exclusives, all these studios they bought. It's gonna show all these exclusive games. Like they just bought Bethesda. They just freaking bought Bethesda. I was like, what else do you want? I don't know, man. I think it's just this year, the remainder of this year, and like next year, like probably the early, like the few months of next year is gonna be rough for the Xbox. But other than that, it's just gonna be they're gonna be back in competition mode because all these exclusive games are gonna drop. So it is what it is. I don't see a reason for this article to be like Xbox Series X is the most disappointing system of 2020. That's kind of ridiculous. But yeah, leave your comments down below. Definitely know what you feel about this article. Maybe you agree, maybe you disagree. Let me know down below. Leave a like if you like this video. As always, thanks for watching. As always, and peace.